Hi there, welcome to PM365 Machine Learning in Healthcare. So once again, I'm really sorry I couldn't make it in person today. I'm still awaiting a PCR test for my son. So I'll update you on that and whether the tutorial will go ahead on Wednesday as planned as well. So for today, I'm just going to record this introduction lecture, and you'll have another lecture on linear regression, which will be uploaded, and I'll email you all the details so you can view these in your own time. So a little bit about this module. So I'm going to be the lecturer for you, as was so on PM272, Introduction to Healthcare Data Science. And again, similar setup is 100% assessed with 2 assignments. The first assignment will contribute to 30% of your grade, and the second assignment 70% of your grade. So you'll be familiar with the format as well. We're going to do some theory lecture slides in the first half of the lecture, maybe first 45 minutes, followed by a live coding exercise every single lecture. Okay, so this course is an introduction to the theory of machine learning, some popular methods and how to build them. And again, we're going to be using the R programming language. So you'll be familiar with R from PM272. You don't have to have any knowledge of machine learning, just as you didn't have to have any knowledge of data science. We're going to go right from first principles. So I assume no knowledge of machine learning on your part. There are going to be some maths. So don't be too alarmed. We're going to go through these in a nice, gentle manner. Again, I'm not assuming a very mathsy background at all. I'll try and break down all the equations for you. We'll go through it step by step. So that I'm not just expecting you to know what the equations are, which I put up on any given slide. We'll go through absolutely everything. Okay, and the learning outcomes for this module. So we'd like to know what is machine learning, exactly what it is it used for, in particular the theory behind machine learning techniques, because they are important. I know a lot of people will be avid users of machine learning techniques, but I think if you know the theory behind how they work, it'll help you understand, why you get some strange results and how to solve those. And of course, we're going to get hands-on experience in solving problems, machine learning problems with R, and how we use ML in research. So we're going to be using a range of different data, which we'll talk about in a few slides' time. So what is machine learning? Well, machine learning is a field of artificial intelligence that uses statistical techniques to give computer systems the ability to learn. So the first thing to say is that artificial intelligence isn't machine learning. They're not the same thing. Artificial intelligence is a much wider infrastructure, if you like, and machine learning is just a subset of artificial intelligence. What you might hear people say, especially if you go out and get jobs in the real world after your degrees and things like that, that statistics and machine learning are 2 isolated fields of research. So you might find people who say, I'm a stats person, I'm a machine learning person. Really, they're almost the same thing. Machine learning is just applied statistics. We're applying statistics in a certain way to solve it. So if you hear anyone arguing about statistics and machine learning, just don't get involved in the argument. They use the same methods, underlying methods. There's no need to argue about those. Yes, and so machine learning isn't artificial intelligence. As I said, it's a much broader focus. So for example, artificial intelligence can include subjects such as natural language processing, robotics, Tesla making their autonomous vehicles, computer vision. So can we detect COVID from an X-ray slide using machine learning? So if artificial intelligence contains all of those fields, machine learning is what powers all of those. So it's the guts that goes inside of artificial intelligence. But as I said, I think artificial intelligence is basically to mimic human intelligence, and machine learning is just a part of that. So there's going to be 3 overlaying themes in this course, 3 types of machine learning that we are interested in, are the main types of machine learning. And so the first one is fitting models to continuous data to predict a continuous response. So this is called regression, and you definitely would have come across regression before, because I'm sure you would have all learned how to plot a line of best fit back in school. So plotting a line of best fit through this data, that is a regression task. So we might want to plot a line like this. And the question would be, using machine learning, how do we determine what is the optimum line, what is the best line? Because you could technically draw loads of different lines through that data. The aim of machine learning is to find the line of best fit. Okay, so we're optimizing this line going through the data. The second theme, which will comprise most of these lectures actually, and it's what's mostly used in the real world, is classification, or supervised classification. So i.e., if we would want to classify data samples into known groups that we define, i.e. cancer and not cancer, we use supervised classification to do this. And we came across supervised classification in one lecture, possibly two, in PM365. We looked at decision trees. So decision trees can be used as a form of supervised classification, and we're going to introduce a lot more different algorithms during this course. So for example, if this was our line of best fit, what if we were interested instead of building a machine learning algorithm that would be able to spot the difference between adults and children? So we could plot a line like this instead. So this is definitely not a line of best fit, but what you'll see is that it does shift the children onto one side, the adults onto the other. So we could say, whatever side of the boundary you're on, we'll classify you as an adult or a child. So it's almost like the inverse of a regression task. Yeah, so in other words, can we classify adults and children, or cancer and non-cancer? These tasks can get quite difficult, actually. So that was a linearly separable task, a pretty easy task to do. Again, just one straight line could split the data. But what we'll gear up towards over the course is non-linear separable data. So this is definitely more difficult data sets to work with, where you're not going to expect 100% accuracy. You're just trying to maximize or optimize your accuracy. And the reason why in the real world it can be complicated is because if you take, for example, your risk of developing stroke in 5 or 10 years' time, that is not a very simple problem at all. You might think maybe what we know, some obvious things like smokers will tend to have a higher chance of stroke. It's actually a very difficult task, and it's definitely non-linearly separable problems. However, what we have at our disposal, especially over the last 20 years, is we've collected vast amounts of information on patients in digital records. So much so that we can, almost have 20,000 people in an experiment, and that will be enough data for machine learning algorithm to do this task, such as, can you predict the risk of stroke in X number of years or N number of years' time? And then once you think about the complexities of data that we can use, you can also introduce other different types of data. So for example, we have a normal chest X-ray on the left. We have one with bacterial pneumonia, and we have another one with viral pneumonia. And the idea being, can we build a machine learning model, in this case we'll be looking at deep learning later on in the course, to tell the difference between these three types of people? So we can triage patients much quicker and get them the treatment or the pathway that they need to be on quicker. So another interesting area that I like to look at is natural language processing. So for example, if you looked at this block of text from a clinic letter, so it's an anonymized clinic letter, you can see that you would like a machine learning algorithm to pick out things that are really interesting to us. So we could maybe just say ingest the entire text and give a decision. Does this person have epilepsy? Yes or no? Or do they have Parkinson's disease? Yes or no? So we could do that, but we could also get a machine learning algorithm to go individually through each sentence and say, is this something interesting in this sentence? Yes or no? i.e. a drug or something like that. And it can get difficult. So for example, I won't go through it all. You can read this at your own leisure. The first sentence says, following Mr. Parkinson's consultation. So you might think, well, there's the word Parkinson's. This person does have Parkinson's disease. Us as humans know this isn't the case. But remember, computers are dumb. We need to train on many examples that this doesn't mean they have Parkinson's. That's just their name. Things like as well, he does not experience seizures daily. Well, we know the word not means they don't experience seizures daily. Again, a computer or a machine learning algorithm would have to be trained to understand that certain words indicate a negation of something. So again, tasks can get really difficult with machine learning, and we're going to try and tackle all of these types of problems during the course. So if that's supervised classification, we will also look at unsupervised classification. So when we were talking about supervised classification, we defined labels in advance that we are interested in, i.e. cancer, not cancer, stroke in 5 years or 10 years, or no stroke at all. Well, in unsupervised classification, we're going to try and assign samples or rows in the data to an optimum number of clusters. And we don't know how many clusters exist in our data. We really have no idea. What we might find, for example, is we might put a lot of healthcare data in for each person, and we use an unsupervised technique to tell us that there are 4 strong clusters in the data. And then you can go and look at each individual cluster, and you might realize that in one of them, the clusters, you've got a lot of frail people that are comorbid, they've got a lot of different diseases. You might have another cluster which is really healthy, and so on. So you can use that to inform you, or use unsupervised classification, sometimes called clustering, to inform you about the type of data that you have. And then you can go on and use those clusters in supervised classification as well. So it's a really useful tool. So what I'm talking about here is if we had height versus weight, actually, there might be 3 strong clusters in here. So, obviously really light people, up to really heavy people and tall people. These 3 groups might be interesting in themselves if you're talking about things like diet. So we all know that is a myth that all men should eat 2,500 calories a day and all women should eat 2,000 calories a day. That is a myth. It depends on your height and weight, and that can be tailored, your diet could be tailored depending on what cluster you might be in, or even what continuous value height versus weight you're at. Could be a 4th cluster as well, we don't know. So we're going to work on how we optimize an ML technique in unsupervised classification to tell us what the optimum number of clusters are. So you'll notice that I've been using this one word quite a lot, optimization. Okay, so the main theme in machine learning is optimizing algorithms to do their job to the best possible ability they can. So we're going to be talking a lot about optimization techniques, some of the mathematics behind it, and how these machine learning algorithms actually learn and how they optimize themselves. So this is going to be the big overarching theme. If we look at regression, supervised classification, and unsupervised classification, we're always looking at optimization across those 3 themes. So why are we interested in machine learning? So we now have access to huge volumes of data going back about 20 years now. So in Swansea University, we have the Sale Data Bank, and we have primary care, secondary care, tertiary services, other bespoke data sets that have been feeding into the NHS for about 20 years. We can anonymously link them, and it really is a world-class data set, but you'll find other data sets all over the world that can do this kind of thing. So now we have access to huge volumes of data. We now have enough to train these algorithms. Because if you imagine, maybe more of an abstract example, if you think of how Tesla are training their cars to self-drive, they need to go and send out prototype cars, which will capture a feed of their drive as they go through. And then you'll have people that will label certain objects at each frame. So if there's 8 frames per second, or maybe even more than that, that is a picture in which humans will be labeling, there's a car on the left of that image, they go through the next frame rate, and so on. So huge amounts of data are needed to train machine learning algorithms. And there's a wide variety of data as well. So if you think of patient records, we are not just gearing towards Excel database style data, we're also thinking of including genetic data, imaging, and natural language processing as well as part of a patient record. Combining all of those will give us a really powerful data set to train powerful ML algorithms. Okay, and I think one of the great things about machine learning is that it's data-driven rather than hypothesis. I think this is where it will diverge from statistics. In statistics, you would typically say, I'm going to test a hypothesis if it's true. In data-driven machine learning world, we're actually just going to let the data tell us what the interesting things are, what the answers are. And as I said, we can do lots of different things. So think of the way we're using applied statistics here is in certain problems, i.e. classification, prediction, forecasting, and so on. So we're using stats, but just for these types of problems. So if you think of what a t-test does in traditional stats, it just compares two averages. Are the averages statistically different from each other? So you're using stats to do that problem. Here, we're just going to use applied statistics to do a classification problem, for example. It's cross-disciplinary as well. Yeah, there's every single discipline now is using machine learning, whether you're going to be in academia, whether you go work for a bank, they're all using machine learning to solve certain problems. So I know we're doing health, and you're on a population health course, most of you. You can transfer these skills to any area that you wish to go into. So it's good for your career. So in health, machine learning has been adopted very nicely. I need to update this graph. It's about 5 years old, actually. But as you can see, data, digital data in large amounts is starting to be recorded. So in the NHS, GP records are digitized from 1998 onwards. And as soon as you have the data available, you start to see ML algorithms being used in published journals. So I just wrote an R algorithm to find various machine learning terms in abstract in PubMed. So a lot of these machine learning algorithms, by the way, they're not new at all. So if you think of neural networks, which I'd imagine if you think of machine learning, that might be one you're aware of. That was invented in the 50s. Okay, so the only reason why they're not being used is because we didn't have the data to support them. Okay, so again, this is a slightly old graph there, but Indeed's best jobs 2019, I'm sure it's the same for 2020 and 2021, is a machine learning engineer. So if you want to earn big bucks, get into machine learning. If we look at a few of these other ones, so I'm sure insurance brokers use machine learning in their job to look at credit risk and so on. Full stack developer, again, this is someone that does coding. So, coding, machine learning is a good space to be in. It will set you up nicely. So lastly, so we're going to do something a little bit different this year. You would have used RStudio in PM365. This year, we're going to use something called Kaggle. I mean, you don't have to use Kaggle. You can use RStudio if you like. I'm going to be demonstrating the code this year on a platform called Kaggle. And it's where you can run code notebooks. You can share them with the wide world and so on. And I think one of the main reasons we're using Kaggle is because when we do deep learning in the latter end of this course, we're going to need something more powerful than most laptops offer. So we're talking about GPU. So if you want to run deep learning algorithms, these cool image detection things, you need more power that's on what your laptop is. And you get these for free on Kaggle. So you can visit the Kaggle page here, which I'll show you now. So this is the landing page for the PM365 Kaggle resource. We do have a Canvas page, and I will put the lecture slides and things like that up on there too. Although the Canvas page doesn't support all of the videos, so it won't have enough storage on there. Here, I'm just going to link to things like a YouTube account, but we'll just quickly go through the Kaggle resource page before we go into the linear regression lecture. So you can go here. Again, I'll email this link out to you as well. Just a gentle introduction why we're using Kaggle and so on. Again, you can use RStudio. Any code that I'm going to be demonstrating, you can just copy into RStudio and you can run it there if you like. However, as I said, when we do deep learning later on the course, you will have to use Kaggle. So you may as well get used to it now. And by the way, lots of people use Kaggle for machine learning. It's one of the major resources, that and Google Colab. Okay, so this is how we're going to be set up. So we'll have all the links, things that you'll need on the Kaggle page. Each week, there'll be a Zoom lecture link. So if you haven't read the email, I'll explain why we're putting up Zoom lecture links this time, which you can log into. I'm not expecting attendance to the live lectures, in-person lectures, which will be in Keir Hardie, to be mandatory. So obviously COVID, if you're COVID cautious, you don't need to come into the lecture if you don't want to. I will be there, however, fully master. And I think, when you're in the classroom, if you have an issue, you can just put your hand up and I can come over and look over your shoulder and see what the problem is. If you don't want to do that, you can log into the Zoom lecture links. So the one for week 2 is already up. You can log into these and you'll get a live feed of the lecture that I'll be presenting from Keir Hardie. And that means you can, do things from home, you can go in the chat. If you have an issue with a bit of code, you can put it in the chat box and I'll hopefully reply to you in turn. And again, all of these lectures, they're going to be recorded and uploaded afterwards. So if you can't miss a lecture, if you've got COVID, you're ill for whatever reason, you can't attend in person or via Zoom, they will be uploaded here as well. So the linear regression lecture video is already up for you to look at, and I'll be uploading this video to the Kaggle page as well. So I'll just go through what Kaggle is. So for example, we have these things called notebooks. So what you'll notice in the linear regression lecture video, we're going to be talking about in the second half of the video about this linear regression notebook. So when you open it, you will get something like this. And it's just, you get these this pre-run code where you can go through, and you can see this is our code here, and you can go through it and you can see that it's producing some results. So these are already pre-run for you. What we'll do in other lectures, we will write live code together and build up a notebook, but just for this lecture, because of the issues I have not been in, this is all pre-run for you. So you've got these cells. So this is one cell, and it's got some commands in there. So it's loading a few libraries and so on, and it's outputting something for you. So outputting this. And this is how you can demonstrate to people your reproducible code. So anybody could come and look at your code if you want to publish it. And you can show them exactly what you did, what your workflow was. Or this is kind of like a digital lab book, if you like. So again, lots of people use Kaggle, and I'll do another quick tour of that. What you'd like to do as well, so when you want to create your own notebook, so we'll have an empty template notebook, which you can click on each week. So I've only got the edit button here. But actually, for example, if I want to go on someone else's notebook, so I'll search for COVID notebooks, and you'll see there's lots of things in Kaggle. So this is where people put all of their code at. Lots of different things. So we'll just go on this first one here. You'll have this edit, copy and edit option. So again, I've only got the edit because this is my notebook. If you click on my notebook, you'll have the copy and edit button. So if you just click on this, it will open up a new notebook. And here you can see we've already got the data we need for this notebook to run, and we can edit this how we like. Okay, so I won't edit this now, but this is just to show you how you're going to go about writing notebooks in Kaggle going forward. So yeah, you can edit a notebook, you can run it. So there's no results here, for example. If we just run this, so again, this is my code. And we can see that it's running. So this just one cell is running. I don't know how long it's going to take, hopefully not too long. And we can see exactly what they're doing. So they're loading in various libraries. This is their data that they're pulling in from here. And they're going to do a few transformations on their data and output it. So it might take a while to run. I'm not going to let it run and show you the results. A result, here you go, a result pops up here, and so on. So this is how we're going to write code if you want to use Kaggle. Each week, we're going to start off with an empty notebook, just with some data loaded in, and we will side by side, whether you're attending via Zoom or in the classroom, we're going to be starting off with blank cell and doing some work. Okay, so this is Kaggle. We'll get used to it, and again, it's a really cool platform. If you do like solving problems in your own time, Kaggle runs lots of competitions, so you can submit work, and again, there's cash prizes. So again, you can form a team if you like. What you tend to see is people form teams on Kaggle. They will contribute some code. So this is the problem on Kaggle that they're interested in, whatever it is. You will see that people have submitted their notebooks, and you can see where they're ranked. So all these people would have won some money. And you can click on and see exactly what they did. And you can even copy and edit it as well. So I think this is what makes Kaggle really good. You can share data, you can share code really easily. And I hope you enjoy using Kaggle. I use it all the time now. And if you do lots of machine learning, especially when you need GPU, which is what we will need for deep learning, you get it for free on this platform. So yeah, a lot of our stuff will be covered, and our home for this lecture will be this PM365 Kaggle resource page. As I said, everything will get uploaded here. So I'll end this video, I'll upload it, and what you can also then do is click on the linear regression lecture video, and it'll take you through this notebook and what it's doing. Okay, so thanks very much. And again, I really apologize that I couldn't make it today. Fingers crossed we don't get a positive PCR result. I'll be in for the tutorial this week on Wednesday, and then we can have a normal session next week. Thanks very much.